Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. On today's journal, I would like to talk about depression. How can we use spiritual practices to overcome depression? Dealing with depression is different for everyone. There are so many different types of depression in the world. Every person is different. This means what works for one person may not necessarily work for another. Depression is the most common mental health problem in the world. Everywhere we look today, people are stressed out. The depression is one of the most difficult situations one can encounter. Depression and associated mental health illness happen because of lack of understanding about ourselves and the mind. Regardless of how success we are with our personal objective, we cannot have inner peace without addressing the mind. If we don't have an understanding how our mind functions, there is a danger that we may be blindly treating its symptom without addressing its underlying cause. So how can we use spiritual practices to overcome depression? There are so many tools available in spirituality, but for me, I would suggest the two main tools, which are one, learn to pay attention to what goes within our mind, become aware of them, and the second, self-inquiry. By inquiring what goes on our mind, we can see illusory nature of our mind activity, because the reality we experience is a function of our mind. That is a basic thing most of us don't understand. Somehow we think that the situation and the circumstance outside is forcing us or influencing us. No, the reality we experience is interpretation or function of our mind, because we never experience anything outside of us. So whatever is out there, the fundamental reality, we don't know that. The science say that. No, I don't say that. Science says that. The functions of our mind to interpret those reality. So by understanding our mind, become aware of our mind, we can overcome our depressions. So let's look at this in more details. Most of us strongly believe that depression is caused by the external circumstance or situation. But if we take time to question our experience, we would see that depression is an unconscious mind activity of rejecting the mind created situation. All there is in depression is the knowing of it. Question your depression and see what it is there. You have a feelings or emotion associated with it, then story is being told about particular situation or whatever that is. But if you really look deeply and closely, what you have is just knowing of it. You're just aware of it. You're just aware of whatever mind story has been going on within you. It's just running itself. So the mind creates a situation or circumstance and the story sometimes associated feeling in the body. But as you are aware of everything. The reason I say this, because when you go to deep sleep, what happened to your depression? You don't remember having any sort of mental health issue while you are in a deep sleep. If we can acknowledge this, then we are giving an opportunity to transform our mind. We can only transform our mind, not the illusory situation or circumstance. All there is to the situation is a knowing of it or awareness. You're aware of the situation, because situation doesn't exist outside of us or you. It has only exists in our mind as a thought process. So if we are to overcome depression, we need to transform our mind, not the situation or the person, because both are illusory. It doesn't exist outside our mind. That's what you have to understand. That is very important, because this is a key to overcome the depression. It doesn't exist outside our mind. Even on that, whatever is there, the final is you just aware of it, is knowing of it. Anything goes on within our mind, what we have is just knowing of it. Then the mind come and attach the story and emotion to that particular situation or circumstance. We need to understand the difference. If we ignore this, then we think that situation itself is producing the depression, is forcing us to become overwhelmed, and nothing we can do about it. We will be trapped forever. Thoughts will be continue to recycle old memories and a bad experience. If we recognize that depression is mind created reality, only exists in our mind, then we will look at the depression in a different way, in a different angle. Or another way of saying, you see that illusory nature of it. If something real to you is always with you, then it should be with you 24/7. But when you go to deep sleep, it wasn't there. So it means you know that it's mind created reality or situation. There are things happening in external world. We don't have a control over it. But what takes place within us takes place in our mind. So if we are to address the depression, we need to become more aware of our mind function, activity, what goes within our mind. The reason we are depressed because our lack of understanding about our mind. Depression is a natural byproduct of our unhealthy, unconscious living. Another way of saying, we carry our life as an unconscious process. If you take time to question your depression or your experience and become as aware of it, you would see that all is there is just knowing of it. Just knowing. That's one of the reasons I put the title. I didn't put it as overcome depression or anything. I just put as a simply saying that all there to is depression is just knowing of it. That is what is your reality. Just take any depression, take the story out of it, take the emotion out of it, what it is they are. Just knowing of it. All that your depression is just knowing of it. All that any experience is just knowing of it. So that if you are to overcome the depression, this is a one way to overcome the depression, because otherwise we will get caught on this cycle of, memory recycling over and again we will go through. If we take any depression in your life you're going through, sometimes it's difficult because it's associated with your emotions, but if we can take a time and question your experience and what's really become as aware of what goes on within your mind, you would see that what is there, just a knowing of it, or you're just aware of it. Anything goes there, just aware of it. It's nothing there other than that.